The starship Vigilant hung in the blackness of space, its sleek hull reflecting the distant light of a nameless sun. Inside, the crew moved with quiet efficiency, preparing for their first planetary survey of Xerxes IV, a world marked only by its unusual atmospheric readings. Among them was John, a human xenobiologist, his fingers dancing over the console as he analyzed the data. "Life signs confirmed," he said, his voice steady despite the excitement bubbling beneath. "Not just microbial, complex organisms. Maybe even intelligent." Captain Ellis, a grizzled veteran with decades of deep space exploration behind him, nodded. "Then we go in careful. No assumptions. Last thing we need is another first contact disaster." Down on the planet's surface, beneath a canopy of towering, violet-leaf trees, Kale crouched in the undergrowth. His people, the Vatal, had watched the skies for generations, whispering stories of the others, those who came from beyond the stars, bringing fire and ruin. And now, one of their vessels had arrived. Kale's breath came in slow, controlled pulses as he observed the landing craft descending. His fingers tightened around the hilt of his energy blade, a weapon passed down through his lineage. He had been chosen as a scout for his stealth, his patience. But never had he expected to face the others alone. The humans stepped out, their bulky environment suits making them look like armored beasts. Kale's instincts screamed at him to retreat, to warn his clan. But curiosity held him in place. Then, fate intervened. John, eager to collect samples, strayed too far from the group. A loose rock gave way beneath his boot, sending him tumbling into a ravine. Pain shot through his leg as he landed hard, his comms device cracking against the stone. He groaned, gripping his knee. "Damn it, hello? Anyone read me?" Static answered. Above, Kale watched. The human was injured. Vulnerable. For a long moment, he debated. The elders had always said the others were merciless. That they would kill first, ask questions never. But this one was alone. Hurting. Slowly, Kale stepped forward. John's head snapped up as a shadow fell over him. His breath caught. Standing before him was a being unlike anything he had ever seen, tall, with smooth, blue-tinged skin, elongated limbs, and eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. Instinctively, John raised a hand, palm open. Kale froze. Was this a weapon? A trick? But the human did not attack. He simply waited. Cautiously, Kale mirrored the gesture, his 3 fingers spread wide. No words were spoken. None were needed. In that silent exchange, something fundamental shifted between them. Fear gave way to uncertainty, then to the barest flicker of trust. And so, against all odds, the bond began. John's leg throbbed as he sat against the ravine wall, his eyes locked on the alien standing before him. The creature, Kale, he would later learn, tilted his head, studying the human with cautious curiosity. His glowing eyes flicked from John's injured leg to the cracked comm device beside him. John swallowed hard. No weapons. No sudden moves. He kept his palm raised, his breathing steady. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said slowly, knowing the words meant nothing to the alien but hoping his tone carried his intent. Kale hesitated, then crouched low, his movements fluid and silent. He reached into a pouch at his side and pulled out a small, leaf-wrapped bundle. Unfolding it, he revealed a thick, paste-like substance that smelled faintly of herbs and minerals. He gestured toward John's leg. "Medicine?" John's pulse quickened. This was a risk, but so was bleeding out in an alien ravine. He gave a slow nod. Kale's fingers were surprisingly gentle as he applied the paste to the wound. A cooling sensation spread through John's leg, dulling the pain almost instantly. He exhaled in relief. "Thank you." Kale made a soft clicking sound in response, perhaps his version of acknowledgement. Then, he pointed at himself. Kale. John blinked. A name. He tapped his own chest. John. Kale's mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile, but something close. He repeated the word carefully. John. John couldn't help but grin. Close enough. Meanwhile, aboard the Vigilant, alarms blared. Captain, we've lost contact with Dr. Carter, Lieutenant Mira reported, her fingers flying over the console. Last transmission was garbled, but his biosigns are still active. Captain Ellis clenched his jaw. Send a search team. Now. Back on the surface, John and Kale had moved to a small clearing, John leaning on a makeshift crutch Kale had fashioned from a sturdy branch. They sat across from each other, the alien watching as John pulled out a ration bar and split it in half. He offered one piece to Kale. Kale sniffed it, then took a tentative bite. His eyes widened. He made another clicking sound, this one higher, almost pleased. John chuckled. Yeah, not bad, right? Kale pointed to the bar, then to John, tilting his head in question. Food, John said, tapping the bar. Human food. Kale repeated the word, then reached into his own pouch and pulled out a handful of small, glowing berries. He offered them to John. John hesitated only a second before popping one into his mouth. The taste was sharp, almost citrusy, but not unpleasant. Good, he said, nodding. Kale's shoulders relaxed slightly. For the first time, the tension between them eased. Then, a rustling in the bushes. Both of them tensed. Kale's hand went to his energy blade, his eyes scanning the trees. John's fingers closed around a rock, his heart pounding. A voice crackled through the foliage, human. Dr. Carter. Are you out here? John's breath caught. The search team. He turned to Kale, whose posture had gone rigid with alarm. Wait, John said quickly, holding up his hands. Friends. My people. They won't hurt you. Kale's eyes darted between John and the approaching voices. Then, with a final, unreadable look, he melted into the shadows, vanishing as silently as he had appeared. John stared after him, a strange ache in his chest. He knew one thing for certain, this wasn't over. The search team found John sitting alone in the clearing, his leg bandaged with strange, leaf-like fibers. Lieutenant Mira knelt beside him, her gloved fingers brushing the unfamiliar material. What happened out here? She asked, her voice tight with concern. John hesitated. He could lie, say he'd treated the wound himself. But the weight of what had just occurred pressed against his ribs. An alien helped me, he said quietly. Intelligent. Peaceful. Myra's eyes widened. Around them, the other crew members exchanged glances. Captain Ellis's voice crackled through their comms, extract Dr. Carter immediately. Full quarantine protocol. Kale moved like shadow through the trees, his heart pounding in a rhythm unfamiliar to his species. He had broken protocol. He had touched another. Worse, he had helped one. The elders would call it treason. When he reached the hidden entrance to his clan's underground settlement, the guards immediately seized him. Kale of the Dawn Watchers, one hissed, you reek of the Sky Poisoners. Kale didn't resist as they dragged him before the circle of elders. The chamber hummed with bioluminescent fungi, casting eerie light on the faces of his judges. Speak, commanded Elder Vara, her voice like wind through dead branches. Kale lifted his chin. The others are not what we believed. One was injured. Alone. It made no attack. It spoke. A murmur rippled through the circle. Elder Droth, the war leader, slammed his staff against the stone floor. You were seen. Our scouts watched you share food with this creature. Yes, Kale admitted. And it's shared in return. Its name is John. The name, hung in the air like a challenge. Aboard the Vigilant, John sat in decontamination, watching through the glass as Captain Ellis paced. You understand what you've done? Ellis growled. First contact protocol exists for a reason. One wrong move. He saved my life, John interrupted. If they were hostile, they'd have killed me. Or left me to die. Ellis stopped pacing. That's exactly what worries me. Why would an advanced species help a potential threat? John had no answer. Deep in the warrens beneath Xerxes IV's surface, Kale stood trial. The old laws are clear, Elder Droth thundered. Any contact with the others is punishable by exile. Elder Vara studied Kale. And yet, this John lives because of you. Did it show gratitude? Kale remembered the human smile. Yes. The circle erupted in debate. When it ended, Kale found himself sentenced not to death, but to something far worse, observation. You will return to this John, Vara decreed. Learn its ways. And when the time comes, you will tell us if its kind can be trusted. As dawn broke over the jungle, two figures emerged from opposite sides of a clearing. John, limping slightly. Kale, his hands empty of weapons. They stood 10 paces apart, the morning light painting gold across the space between them. John spoke first. I thought you wouldn't come back. Kale made that soft clicking sound, almost a laugh. Neither did I. The jungle clearing had become their secret meeting place. Every dawn, John slipped past the vigilant security perimeter, while Kale navigated the hidden paths his people used to avoid detection. They sat together on a fallen log, the first rays of sunlight filtering through the violet canopy above. John placed a small device between them, a rudimentary translator he'd cobbled together from ship spare parts. This might help, he said, tapping the screen. A series of symbols flickered to life. Kale leaned forward, fascinated. He pointed to a nearby plant and spoke a word in his own language, a soft, melodic sound like wind through reeds. The device stuttered, then displayed, botanical specimen. Non-toxic. John grinned. Progress. Kale's answering click laugh sent a warm thrill through John's chest. Aboard the Vigilant, tension simmered. You're telling me our xenobiologist has been sneaking off-ship daily? Captain Ellis's voice could have cut steel. Security Officer Reyes shifted uncomfortably. His biosignature disappears for exactly 87 minutes each morning, sir. Always returns with new linguistic data. Ellis turned to the viewport, where Xerxes IV hung like a jewel in the black. This isn't a cultural exchange mission. Our orders are clear, assess for colonization potential. Reyes hesitated. Sir, if the natives are intelligent. Then we follow Protocol 12. Ellis's jaw tightened. Prepare the planetary survey drones. Kale's people noticed the changes too. Elder Drotha's claws scraped against the observation crystal as the image resolved, a human machine hovering over the sacred salt flats, scanning, probing. They defile our holy places, he roared. Elder Vara placed a restraining hand on his arm. Kale warned us of their curiosity. Curiosity? Droth whirled on her. They map our world like conquerors. In the shadows, young Scout Tail watched the elders argue, then slipped away toward the surface. John was showing Kale images of Earth when the attack came. A blast of searing energy struck the log between them, sending splinters flying. John hit the ground rolling as 3 Vatal warriors emerged from the trees, their energy blades humming. Traitor! Tail screamed, leveling his weapon at Kale. You consort with the defilers. Kale moved faster than John had ever seen. He intercepted Tail's strike, their blades locking in a shower of sparks. Run! Kale shouted to John in halting English. John didn't hesitate. He sprinted for the tree line, then skidded to a stop as a new sound filled the air. The whine of engines. The vigilance drones descended like a swarm of metal insects, their scanning beams painting the battlefield in cold blue light. For one frozen moment, everyone stared upward. Then chaos erupted. Tail broke away, firing at the drones. Energy bolts ricocheted wildly, igniting the dry underbrush. Kale tackled John behind a boulder as the clearing became an inferno. Through the smoke, John saw Captain Ellis's worst fear coming true: first contact had become first conflict. And in that moment, he made his choice. Grabbing Kale's arm, John pointed to the jungle's depths. "We have to stop this. Together." Kale's eyes burned with reflected firelight as he nodded. Two outcasts. One impossible mission. Smoke curled through the jungle as John and Kale sprinted through the undergrowth, the sounds of battle fading behind them. John's lungs burned, but he forced himself to keep pace with Kale's longer strides. They didn't stop until they reached a narrow cave hidden behind a waterfall, its entrance veiled by thick vines. Kale pressed a hand to the stone wall, his bioluminescent markings pulsing faintly in the dim light. Safe. For now. John collapsed against the cave wall, wiping sweat from his brow. "Your people really don't want us here, huh?" Kale's answering silence was heavier than words. Aboard the Vigilant, chaos reigned. Captain Ellis stared at the damage reports: 3 drones lost, scanners blinded by some kind of energy interference. "They have anti-air capabilities," he muttered. "This changes everything." Lieutenant Mira pulled up a map of the region. "Sir, we're detecting movement, multiple lifeforms converging on Dr. Carter's last known position." Ellis's fist clenched. "Arm the security teams. Non-lethal measures only, for now." Deep in the warrens, Elder Vara stood before the assembled clan. "The others have shown their true nature," Elder Droth thundered. "They send their metal demons to defile our land." Vara raised her hands for silence. "And yet, Kale lives. By their mercy or their weakness, we do not know." A young scout stepped forward. "We found human tracks, leading with Kale." Together. The chamber erupted. In the cave, John worked frantically on his damaged communicator. "If I can boost the signal, maybe I can reach the Vigilant, explain what's happening." Kale watched him for a long moment, then reached into his pouch. He produced a crystalline object that glowed faintly blue. "Vatal calm stone," he said, placing it beside John's device. "Stronger." John stared at the alien technology merging with his own. "You're full of surprises." Kale made that soft clicking sound, almost a laugh, but his eyes remained serious. "Your captain. Will he listen?" John thought of Ellis's hard-lined face. "He'll have to. Unless..." A new idea struck him. "Is there anyone among your people who might listen? Anyone who could?" A sudden noise outside the cave cut him off. Both froze as the vines at the entrance rustled. Kale's blade was in his hand instantly. John grabbed a rock. The vines parted, revealing not a warrior, but a young Vatal female, her markings barely brighter than a child's. She stared at them with wide eyes. "Tessa?" Kale breathed. The girl, barely more than a scout in training, held out trembling hands. "The elders, they're coming for you. With fire." John and Kale exchanged a glance. They were out of time. The jungle erupted in orange light as the first plasma charges hit. Trees became torches, illuminating the night with unnatural glow. From a ridge above, John watched the destruction unfold, Vatal warriors moving in coordinated patterns, human security teams advancing in defensive formations. Two civilizations on the brink of annihilation, all because they couldn't understand each other. Kale gripped his shoulder. Your device. Does it work? John activated the hybrid communicator. A crackling hologram sprang to life, half human interface, half Vatal crystal light. It's ready, he said. But what do we say? Kale placed his three-fingered hand over John's on the device. The truth. As the firelight painted their faces in alternating shades of blue and orange, two voices spoke as one, first in halting phrases, then with growing certainty. The message would go to both sides. The war would end tonight. The hybrid communicator hummed between them, its holographic display flickering as it prepared to broadcast. John's fingers trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what they were about to do. Ready? He asked. Kale placed his hand over the device, his bioluminescent markings pulsing in sync with its rhythm. Together, they activated the transmission. Aboard the Vigilant, alarms blared as the comm system overloaded. Captain! Lieutenant Mira shouted. We're receiving a dual-frequency transmission, human and unknown. Captain Ellis watched in stunned silence as the viewscreen resolved into a split image, John Carter's face on one side, the blue-skinned alien, Kale, John called it, on the other. Their voices merged through the static, first in standard, then in the alien's melodic language, perfectly synchronized. This is Dr. John Carter of the Earth vessel Vigilant. And Kale of the Vatal Dawn Watchers. We speak with one voice. To prevent needless death. The bridge crew stood frozen as the message continued, revealing everything, the accidental first contact, the cultural misunderstandings, the truth that both species had acted out of fear rather than malice. Ellis's grip on the command chair tightened until his knuckles turned white. In the Vatal Warren, the crystal projection walls shimmered with the same transmission. Elder Vara watched Kale's face with something like pride. Elder Droth looked ready to shatter the crystals with his bare hands. They dare speak for us? Droth roared. The young scout Tessa stepped forward. They speak truth. For the first time in generations, the chamber fell completely silent. John and Kale stood back to back in the burning jungle, their makeshift transmitter glowing between them. They didn't see the human security teams lowering their weapons. They didn't witness the Vatal warriors extinguishing their plasma charges. All they saw was the hope that their words might be enough. Then, movement in the trees. A squad of human marines emerged, rifles raised. At the same instant, a band of Vatal hunters materialized from the smoke, blades humming. John stepped forward, hands raised. Stand down. This ends now. A plasma bolt sizzled past his ear. Chaos erupted. Kale moved like lightning, tackling John to the ground as energy fire crisscrossed above them. The transmitter shattered under stray fire. In that moment, John realized the terrible truth: some people wanted this war. Then the ground shook. A new sound filled the air, not weapons fire, but something deeper, more primal. The very trees trembled as a colossal shape emerged from the jungle. Neither human nor Vatal, but something other. The real masters of Xerxes IV had awakened. The ground split open. A towering figure emerged from the jungle floor, skeletal, gleaming with metallic veins, its hollow eyes burning with cold blue fire. Ancient. Unmistakably intelligent. The battlefield froze. Human rifles lowered. Vatal blades dimmed. Even the wind seemed to still as the being surveyed them with detached curiosity. You disturb the balance. The words resonated not in their ears, but in their minds, bypassing language entirely. John was the first to move. He stepped forward, hands raised in the universal gesture of peace. We didn't know. The entity's gaze locked onto him. You speak for your kind? Before John could answer, Kale moved to stand beside him. We speak together. A ripple passed through the ancient being's form. Curious. Aboard the Vigilant, sensors went wild. Captain. Mira shouted. Energy readings off the scale, it's like the entire planet just woke up. Ellis watched the main screen in awe as new landmasses appeared on their scans, not land at all, but the outlines of vast, buried structures now rising to the surface. God help us, he whispered. We weren't the first visitors here. The revelation came in waves. The entity, one of many guardians, as they called themselves, had slumbered for millennia, waiting for the balance to be threatened. Xerxes IV was not just a planet. It was an archive, a living museum of countless extinct civilizations. And now, two new species stood at the brink of adding themselves to that collection. You will leave, the Guardian intoned. Or you will join the others beneath our soil. Captain Ellis's voice crackled through John's surviving earpiece. Orders from command were to withdraw immediately. John looked at Kale. The Vatal's markings pulsed erratically, their version of distress. There's another way, John said suddenly. The Guardian tilted its head. Explain. John reached for Kale's hand. Let us prove coexistence is possible. Not just between our species, but with you. A long silence. Then. One solar cycle. The Guardian raised a clawed hand. Every human and Vatal weapon simultaneously deactivated. Demonstrate this balance, or join it. The following days passed in a blur. Human and Vatal scientists worked side by side, deciphering the Guardian's technology. Warriors stood guard together against the planet's more dangerous fauna. Children, from both species, exchanged stories and games, unfazed by the differences their elders feared. John and Kale became the bridge, translating not just words, but meaning. When the Guardian returned, it found them waiting together at the jungle's edge. Your time is ended. Captain Ellis stepped forward. We request formal ties between our peoples. Shared knowledge. Mutual protection. Elder Vara spoke next. We agree. The Guardian studied them for what felt like eternity. Then. A sound like mountains shifting. It was, laughing. The balance is preserved. As quickly as they had appeared, the Guardians began sinking back into the earth. But not before imparting one final gift, coordinates to other archive worlds, other chances for balance. On the day the Vigilant prepared to depart, Kale stood at the edge of the landing zone. You could come with us, John offered. Kale's clicking laughter mingled with the jungle sounds. Next time. First, much to explain to my people. They clasped forearms, a new gesture, belonging to neither culture, but to theirs. As the ship ascended, John watched the blue planet shrink behind them. Somewhere down there, a friend looked skyward. The message was clear. This wasn't an ending. It was a first step.